Hey everybody, it's Everett with Ohio for Freedom coming to you from Blackwall Studios here in northern suburban Cincinnati, Butler County, actually. And it is my privilege today to have a conversation with Pastor Dan Chapman of Real Life Church. Dan, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you, Everett. What a blessing it is to be with you.
Well, it was really exciting. Audience members here, Dan and I used to attend the same church. I don't want to say how many years ago, Dan. It's kind of telling there, but actually it was in the 90s there. But we were part of a really thriving local church, and we were always good friends. And it was really good to see y'all at Clay Clark's event last week.
Yes, it was. That was exciting, wasn't it?
It was very, very exciting. And let's just jump in here, Pastor Dan. Can you tell everybody the name of your church and maybe just give us a 60-second commercial, what your emphasis is, what you're all about?
Yeah, here's our plug. We're Real Life Church of Ohio, down at 1044 Marquette Road, Lancaster, Ohio. So we're like down in getting right at the edge of the Hocking Valley there. And it's Mayberry. If I can define it as what it is, it's Mayberry down there. But what a unique church, because we call it Real Life because that's what it is. We don't pull any punches. We don't, we don't have the proverbial religious KoolAid. So,
gotcha. Yeah. Oh, well, let's talk about KoolAid here just a little bit now. Let's just be candid with the audience. I saw y'all at the Clay Clark event, and I got a chance to meet your sister. Oh, it looks like we maybe lost you visual wise there for a bit. He's back. Yeah. Dan, do you recall what is the last thing that you and I did when we last saw each other? The very last thing. Do you remember?
Well, the very last thing you asked, why we were here. What are we doing here?
Yeah. Well, that's not quite what happened, because the very last thing that happened before, because y'all had to leave. Let's just be candid. I gave you a hug, man.
Yes.
So, I just want to ask you, have you gotten sick or have you died from that horrific experience?
The last I checked, I'm not dead.
Okay.
And the only sniffle I had was yesterday. We baptized 21 people, and I got a little teary-eyed over that. And so all's well.
Wow.
All's well.
21.
Now, that may be just an Ohio thing. You can check with my sister. She's in Florida.
Okay.
I think she's healthy and happy also.
Okay.
Yeah. No problems whatsoever.
Well, I remember giving you a hug too, Deborah. So you haven't died or gotten sick either.
No, not yet.
Okay.
No.
I don't plan on it. I got to go to the Trump rally Saturday.
Where's that one at? Where's that Trump rally at?
Sarasota.
Oh my goodness. Well, he's
3rd of July. On the 3rd of July.
He kicked up some ground on the 26th. So getting back to this hugging thing. So Dan, like at your church, is that something that happens? Do people actually hug, shake hands, and that sort of thing?
We are commissioned to lay hands on one another. So that is our stance. Oh. Now, I'm sure as our conversation progresses, we'll recap.
Okay.
We'll recap. I like to call it 2020. I don't even use their acronyms or whatever. But if I say 2020, we know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
I'm not one. I kind of stumble over talking in code. I always blow it. Get my YouTube or Facebook warnings, that type of thing. My sister, I believe, is still in jail, Facebook jail.
I'm in jail all the time on Facebook.
What was your last egregious offense, Deborah?
My last one was a Fauci post.
Oh my. Okay. Well, we dare not offend Lord Fauci. So Dan, this controversial practice of hugging and shaking hands and so forth Did that ever stop at your church?
I'm going to have to say yes,
Okay.
because why that stopped was we had some attenders that, mainstream media had inundated their thoughts, and we had to just, we couldn't kiss them goodbye. Wow. But we just had to wave bye-bye as they walked out the door. So, and it was really surprising because I got they went around the mountain.
Yeah.
And we got a call back by one in particular that lives close by, and we had to share. No, we're still mask free, we're still vaccine free, and we're still free from the COVID. So, so they drove by and waved again. So I guess that's our new ministry.
By the way, okay. So probably, I mean, I don't want to put, tell experience that isn't yours, but so like a lot of folks, did y'all kind of, give everybody the benefit of the doubt and sort of change your methodology for a little bit and then get back to normal, or how did that work?
Yes. And I say for the better. I say that the Lord has turned that around for the better, because it forced me at 62 years old to get wise real quick on the social media platforms.
Right.
As soon as we did that, I mean, that launched our live feeds. It really did. And so we had about a 90% growth online.
Oh my.
That took place. And what we did, our church building is 122 years old.
Okay.
Like I say, it's nestled down there in our version of Mayberry.
Yeah.
And so we're faced with a challenge. What do we do? And fortunately for us, the way the church is designed and the parking and everything, it's a steeple church. We kicked the 2 doors open. We adjusted the temperature and told people that, hey, we don't know what this is. We're going to wait and see, as soon as that started taking place.
Yeah.
But we're not stopping. We just are not stopping. And so we kicked the double doors open, told people, if you want to have your drive up, you can drive up, you can see the pulpit. And people took advantage of that, watched us on their cell phones. Just set their cell phones on the dashboard when it came time for communion or prayer or anything.
Yeah.
I went out to them. I took the communion out. So it was a drive up church. It literally was. And that part of it exploded. I mean, really, we grew in numbers quite well.
Wow.
Because there are those that really do refuse to not so much comply, but they just don't want to play by silly rules.
Right.
And so that enhanced everything for us.
How early on did you begin that practice, or did you do that right away?
Right away.
Oh, man.
Right away. Fortunately, fortunately, I could pull everybody together.
Yeah.
And those who would come, for extra meetings to just kind of strategize this whole thing. What are we going to do? How are we going to do it? And pray. I mean, just that the wisdom that God afforded us was 2 things.
Yeah.
And these 2 things I know are straight from His throne. Psalm 91.
Right.
And communion. Our communion, we just declared it. It was really, unique, because Lou Engle had also declared that over the nation. He says, we have got to be a communion revival. And so that's what we adapted to. We gave communion to take home for families, or take it. And then the whole Acts 19:12, with the prayer cloths. If people don't want to come in, here. Yeah, we just commissioned everybody. Send the prayer cloths out. We didn't charge them for the prayer cloths, by the way. You know, you don't have to send anything in for these, but so we did. We became the hanky church, you know,
Right.
giving handkerchiefs out and everything, and just staying as closely knit as we could.
So you never really stopped being a pastor, being a church, doing all the things that a church does, but you made a few changes so that people could involve themselves at whatever level they were ready for, felt comfortable with, etc. Is that about right?
Yes, that's exactly right. That's exactly right.
And at the same, I didn't mean to speak over top of you, but at the same time, then you got more savvy to the social media part of it. And so people that had to join you from online, they were able to do that also.
Yes. I mean, and I want to just bust the myth right now. You can teach an old dog new tricks.
Well, I don't know if I agree with the old part. Okay. I'm going to, man, when I saw you, man, I like, this guy's got a great head of hair. He doesn't have an extra pound on him. You're wearing well, my friend. Okay.
Yeah. Like I say, we're heading to the beginning. So when you and I were attended the same church many moons ago, Day Spring Assembly of God, I mean, that was a great church. And one of the things that I don't think I realized, or put it this way, I realized it so much more in this last year. People would get there early for church, but one thing that they would do, Dan, do you remember this? People would hang out in the foyer after service. I mean, it would take sometimes an hour before you could lock that building up, because they were what? They were talking. They made spontaneous plans to go out and eat together. And I looking back on it, I feel like, man, that was like the after service. I think that was one of the most important parts of the service. Yes. And we carry on with that today. That just that aspect, that I love that.
Yeah.
I think that's just as important as worship. Fellowship is right up there with all of that, because people's guards are down. You know, they're real, and that concept. And we have increased, and I'll add to this, but we've increased in that fellowship aspect.
Yeah.
We've had more dinners together. We've had more time together. If someone wants to have a birthday party with the whole church, we've had weddings, Sunday service weddings for families. I increased our weddings, and and it was really something, because it happened so well for us down at Real Life that I'm always wanting to nudge out, you know, we don't want to miss the community, because there's still some survivors out there that are needing to be retrieved.
Yeah.
And we got linked up with the Farmers to Family food grocery distribution program, door to door. And we only got turned away once over the concept of the pandemic.
Right.
We got turned away as a church group one time. More people were crying, letting us pray with them, and that exploded for us. And but once again, nobody got sick. You know, it was really something that if someone caught cold, they weren't saying it because they didn't want to be classified in some other category. You know, so but it was really special, as special as what you talked about back in the day.
Yeah.
Fellowship is paramount.
I think it's paramount on emotional and spiritual and all kind of levels. I'm going to share an experience with you and get your reaction to it if I can. I was just shocked. I'll just be honest with you. I was shocked that all the churches closed down. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I kind of understood it like for the first couple of weeks because I felt like we all gave, the benefit of the doubt. But early in May, when that was all being extended, something didn't smell right. And here's where I'm going. Memorial Day weekend last year, President Trump goes on national television and he signed an executive order declaring churches as essential. And Dan, I got to be honest with you, I was naive enough. I actually thought churches would take him up on it. And I went on a Facebook rant. I don't mean to be talking so much, but I said, come on, churches, you still have a phone list. You can call everybody. This is exactly what I said. You can call everybody up and say, hey, we're having church. If you're not comfortable, set up speakers in the parking lot, but get together. And I was shocked that almost nobody did that. What's your reaction to that?
It was sad. It was, and there were several times, just as a pastor on social media, I repented, because we have some level of understanding as to why that took place. But what about those who didn't? Yeah. And as a minister, I did. I was big on repentance of that because it you can't find it in the Word. You can't find it in God's Word that's what we're supposed to do.
Right.
And at the same time, look at the enhancement or the increase of folks like Sean Foyt. He's on his 100th city. He just started out with a bullhorn in his guitar. I know that strikes your heart.
Yeah.
And so all of these things, we include what they're doing in our worship because that's encouraging. Yeah. And I will say that the hardest thing was exactly what the accuser of the brethren does.
Right.
Was how he was wearing down even the remnant.
Right.
That even though we shut our televisions off, and even though we depended on like Ohio for Freedom, and thank you, because we really depend on the information that you bring forth. I have to use my sister who's on this Zoom meeting with us because I told her, I said, Deb, I don't have the time because of the influx of information that's coming. I don't have time to sift through that. And fortunately, she does. So, and I think Deb will agree that I shared one time, filter it. And if it's something that is you've got the source backing you up and all of that type of thing, then I can share it from the pulpit.
Right.
And I did, if there was any waffling in what I experienced, it was just that. What do I share from the pulpit? Because, if you go with the mainstream church,
right,
they like to stay away from politics.
Yeah. If
you go with, so how do we approach that? What's the balance of God and man that we bring from the pulpit? And that was another tightrope that I had to walk.
Yeah.
Because as you can see from the Reawaken America tour, you only got to throw out a few words and you've got the patriotic war ready with the pitchforks and everything. So that's what I had too.
Yeah.
I had to. I didn't want to say no politics because this was guiding us through the whole concept and guiding us into what I see, and I believe that both of you could agree with me. I see this as that revival we were praying for.
Right.
I really do. It doesn't look like what we were thinking when we were praying back in the 90s for revival.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like that. But we have a people that is heartfelt, patriotic, and standing up for Jesus.
Yeah.
And I see that. I see it on a local level, and we most definitely saw it down there in Tampa.
Gotcha. It was amazing. I doubt if I met anybody down there that wasn't a God-fearing Christian. I mean, that's just, you didn't even have to talk about it. I mean, by and large, that was a God-fearing group, wouldn't you say?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So you stayed open and you were innovating along the way as you stayed open. You ministered to people, your church grew physically, and you also reached people online that you hadn't before. And so
Yes.
Good for you guys. This is kind of touchy here, but who have you been disappointed with in the last year?
Most disappointed I've been with our governor. I've been most disappointed. I'm stunned by that. I voted for our governor.
Right.
And I really feel not only let down, I feel kind of victimized by what's taken place in the governor's office for the church. And yeah, if I could say that, if we're safe enough to say that, I am disappointed. I had to make a decision on compliance. I told the church, we're going to comply. But even through the education I got in Bible college, I shared this. This is what floored me. We were in Bible college. I went to Ohio Christian University.
Yeah. I
went down here to Valor Christian College, and I got my degrees in that, my training. But in all of that, I heard a common thread going through all the education aspect of it. We're okay to comply until it gets ungodly, unlawful, or immoral.
Right.
But I was stunned by the fact that I didn't think all three of those were going to hit at once. That's what floored me. That the things were coming at us. There were the force of all three of those. And so that was the resistance that I need to be strengthened by.
Yeah.
There are certain things that categorize each three of those. So are we safe?
No, we're totally safe. Well, let me take that one step further. And if you don't want to name names, I completely understand that. Have you been impressed, or have you been disappointed by the church at large in the last year?
Yeah, but we knew that was coming. I refer to what we have today as the remnant.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that boastful or prideful. I'm saying that because that's what we're holding on to.
Yeah.
The fact we are the remnant, and there is an exclusive position that we have to take as the remnant church. And it was encouraging, reawakening America, at the conference.
Right.
And it was encouraging also to know that right up, what is it, Deb? 15 minutes by jet from Orlando. So we had the Family, Faith, and Freedom Conference going on there.
Right.
And then we had, once again, just a little ways up in Atlanta, there's Sean Foyt gathering another city together. So that was encouraging to know and to realize that the remnant isn't just a little tear in the corner. The remnant is a strong people and getting stronger.
Gotcha. Well, I'll do this so that, because I'm a lot more boisterous, and I'll kind of say, I don't have to be as careful. I don't have any dignity.
That's why we watch you.
What's that?
That's why we watch.
Well, I appreciate that. We were attending, our home church was a large, formerly maybe some Pentecostal roots, but community church. I'll just say that.
Right.
And I just got to be honest with you. I was shocked because they locked down immediately. And then I've described this to other people, and I've never known if they understood what I was saying. Immediately, everything is looking for a church online. And I understand if people went online, but Pastor Dan, every time that I would tune in, there was, like you said that you guys had strategy meetings. How do we deal with this? Well, where we used to attend online, it was as though there was no crisis. It was what it was like was, it's always been this way. It's never been any different. And I told people, it's like you live with grandma. Grandma lives with you. And then one day somebody comes and takes grandma out of the home, and you get up the next day and everybody's happy and everybody's smiling and nobody talks about grandma. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. And that was, I understand your frustration in that. From the pulpit, it was really something, because what I was getting, and here's another resistance strengthening that I was getting the Lutherans coming in. I was getting the Baptists coming in, the Methodists. And we, so now I'm presenting the gospel, but I'm presenting it to them from the concept of being a Holy Ghost, fire baptized church, and not backing down, not saying, okay, well, we've got the Lutherans, so, let's throw in some stories of, some flannel graphs. No, we didn't have to do that. Flannel graphs. We're okay to say flannel graphs?
You can say that.
So anyway, so what happened with that? It's like, okay, you're coming in, you're amongst fellow believers, and here's how we present the gospel. Wow. And we did not get turnaways. Nobody had to, whoa, speaking in tongues, what? Letting children take communion. No, everybody was open to that. In fact, I'm thinking I've got to turn the music down a little bit to accommodate. We're talking 90-year-old people. There was a revival of geriatrics. but they were accepting of that because they came and they found the real Jesus.
Right.
They're still there. I know of one of that group, their church had reopened, and but they're still here.
Wow.
And I don't feel like I've proselytized anyone,
right?
Because the doors are open, and that's why I have to keep reiterating from the pulpit. It's okay. The doors are open if this is too much, and it's not. Wow. It's really not, because what that in turn did was let people know that Father, Son, and Holy Spirit are what we've been looking for all this time, and it's the only thing that's going to get us through. We're still in troubled waters, and they're still treading quite well.
Yeah. You know what the thought that's going through my mind is, especially some of those older schoolers. Of course, I'm getting there, man. But I thought many times, Pastor Dan, that okay, if you could go back to the Dust Bowl days of the 30s or whatever kind of catastrophe, maybe Great Depression,
right?
Think of even a country congregation coming together and the pastor basically saying, folks, here's what we're dealing with. God's still on the throne. Here's how we're going to deal with it.
Right.
Okay. And what I'm describing, the online experience with the church that we used to attend, there was none of that. It was just putting a happy face on and pretending that people weren't going through issues.
Right.
Why would you take that approach? Why would anybody take that approach?
Capital gain, it could only be because here's the thing. From what I saw, just rubbing shoulders with other ministers, they still had to pay their youth pastor. They still had the bills to pay, and we've pushed for that. And my wife and I, neither one take a salary, and so we didn't have to be leashed to the pulpit that way.
Wait. Now, I apologize because I'm getting the time warning from the Zoom folks. But are you talking about the CARES Act and those monies being available to churches?
Yes.
Can you explain that? Yeah, I got you back. I've got you back.
Good. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. And I guess for the sake of our time, if we're at a time limit,
yeah.
the concept and my warning was not only to the body of believers, it was to fellow ministers. Don't take the stimulus. And it came in such a way. I went to Word Hippo, Everett.
Yeah.
I went to Word Hippo. Look up stimulus. Right. And it came with a Latin origin. And it's a prod, what we call a cattle prod for oxen that has the hook on it. And I showed the picture. I said, this is what a stimulus really is. You're prodded into a certain bullpen of thought. And if you don't get into that bullpen, that hook is right there to take you to where you're supposed to be. And so that's what happened with stimulus, with other incentives, and it's still happening today. It's still happening.
As far as the church is concerned, so were these stimulus monies offered, but with strings attached? You have to do this, you have to do that, or was it? Go ahead, I'm listening.
The strings were, quite transparent. Yes, there was. And the warning was that you take that stimulus, just like it is for the individual, you take that stimulus, what's just down the road from that?
Yeah.
Because that stimulus is hooked to a system, and not only compliance, but now you're going to support this system. And my biggest concern at that time when that first came out for churches was land. What's going to happen when these doors are shut and they can't pay the bills? And pretty soon they're having to do away with this, certain things, certain material things, to where they're just boiled down to all they are is a piece of land with a building on it. I've had so many real estate phone calls to sell my church. I'm not selling.
Right.
I'll lose my number.
We're at about 4 minutes here, and I wanted to, when the president brought on Dr. Scott Atlas onto his team, I really like Scott Atlas, and I ran across an interview he did with the Hoover Institution, and they talked about deaths of despair, and as a result of the lockdown, this shutting the churches down, how do you think that affected people that were, say, struggling with depression or maybe struggling with had trouble with substance abuse or alcoholism? Real quick, can you speak to that?
Real quick, it enhanced it. It totally enhanced it. That was another adjustment for the church because we were going after the drug addicts. And in 2020, we didn't have very far to go because they were coming to us. And the church had to adjust to the fact that young lady's going to be sitting on the stoop of the church lighting up a cigarette because she's trying to keep her nerves. And I put it to him this way. If there weren't, because a guy brought it to my attention. He says, what about all these cigarette butts? What are I said, we can't be too churchy. If we don't have those butts out in the parking lot, we're not going to have their butts inside the church. So we had to open up to that. And it's been hard. Our jail ministries, 10 times. My wife just got deputized so that we could go to the jails. She literally is now a sheriff's deputy. I got to watch my step around the house.
You better be good, man. All right, we're up against the clock. Pastor Dan, in closing, what would you say to the pastors that shut down and also to the pastors that are still shut down? What would be your word to them?
Rise up, stand up, and take your place in history. That's simply it. And remind them, if you don't do it, God has an alternative.
He does.
He really does.
If people want to find y'all online, tell us real quick how we can do that.
Real quick, Real Life Ohio, that's our website, reallifeohio.com. We're on Facebook by my name. I put my name on there because one thing we have to do, if we've got people in this nation that are putting children on the menu, we don't want our children to be seen on a social media platform. Right. So I just go through Daniel Chapman Facebook, and then we're our email reallifechurchohio@gmail.com.
reallifeohio.com.
Yeah.
Pastor Dan, we will talk again soon. I hope. I really, really appreciate it. And keep up the good work. And thank you for not caving in. And thank you for being there for whosoever that actually wanted to go and attend a real church service. I can't thank you enough.
Absolutely. You're very welcome. And thank you for what you're doing with Ohio for Freedom. And thank you, Sister Deb.
You're welcome.
Love you guys. Thank you so much. And we'll be in touch soon. Okay. Bye-bye.